This podcast is being brought to you in part by our podcast guest, author, speaker, and TV series creator, Paul Dowdy. Paul has just had his book, Resilience, My Ultimate Superpower, Empowering Young Lives to Overcome Challenges, released and now available from Amazon. This book is a labor of love dedicated to empowering young minds to navigate and overcome life's hurdles with strength and resilience. This book draws inspiration from the true story of Paul Dowdy, who grew up in the tumultuous 1970s, facing childhood domestic violence, abandonment, and the challenges of unsupervised teenage years, having to learn to make adult decisions to stay alive. Paul's candid storytelling and insightful reflections highlight the pivotal moments that shaped his life. The book teaches us that resilience isn't just about bouncing back, it's about growing stronger with each challenge faced. This is so important for our young people to know. Paul's journey exemplifies how we can harness our inner strength, maintain a positive mindset, and see beyond immediate struggles to embrace a life of resilience and empowerment. The book focuses on helping young adults and is a must read for the 14 to 18 age set, parents, mentors, and educators to read and get a fresh perspective on the challenges our youth face from the digital landscape, academic stress, peer pressure, depression, and anxiety, just to name a few covered in the book. With statistics such as 44% of teens feeling persistently sad and hopeless, 40% feeling lonely, 29% experiencing poor mental health, depression, and anxiety, and only 35% of struggling teens seeking help, it is imperative that the book be read and understood. Paul's book is so special that it is going to be made into a TV drama series based on his life. Resilience, My Ultimate Superpower, Empowering Young Lives to Overcome Challenges, is available in hardcover, paperback, and Kindle formats from Amazon. Information about the book will be listed in the podcast notes. Welcome, everyone in the United States, Canada, and around the world to another episode of It's a Wrap with Rap, the podcast of overcomers and useful information to better our lives and lift our mental spirit. I am your host, Ron Rapaport. I would like to thank all our great listeners, our viewers and supporters and sponsors for helping to make this podcast such a success. The podcast is being heard on all major platforms and the podcast website, it's a wrap with rap.com, where you can find all the episodes, previews of future episodes, the podcast Book Nook, featuring exceptionally written books authored by our guests, and various products and services offered from our sponsors. You may also view all the episodes on the podcast YouTube channel, It's a Wrap with Rap, the podcast uncut. My guest today is Marcia Moran. Marcia has written over 50 business plans and helped entrepreneurs strategize their companies in changing environments. She holds a BS in political science and a master's in business administration. Her 20 plus years of experience helping other entrepreneurs encouraged her to found her own firm, Performance Architect, in 2012, and co-found Positive Business DC that same year. Now, after suffering a major stroke in 2014, Marcia applied her skills in planning and strategy as she strived to become whole. She joined Toastmasters International, hoping to regain her speaking abilities. 2 years later, she pushed beyond her comfort zone to become a club officer in 2017, then area director in 2019. A woman of many talents, she studied art in Norway, earned a certificate in well-being foundations of personal transformation. She also volunteers at Brain Injury Services, supporting their Speakers Bureau program. Marcia authored the book Stroke Forward: How to Become Your Own Healthcare Advocate One Step at a Time, and created Stroke Forward because she felt there is a need to share hope to stroke survivors and their caregivers. Stroke is a leading cause of death in the United States, with more than 795,000 Americans experiencing a stroke every year. This is why we are focusing on the subject today, so that our audience can be informed on this important topic and and who can better educate us than someone who has experienced a stroke. Now, learning to become her own healthcare advocate one step at a time and exploring holistic methods for healing are keys to her recovery. Marcia speaks and shares her message of hope, inspiration, and healing, and a way forward as she goes across the country. She welcomes new opportunities to help both individuals and organizations affected by the major health crisis move forward. Welcome, Marcia, to the podcast.
Thank you, Ron.
I hope I gave you enough accolades on that.
I, you know, it's embarrassing, but okay.
No, it's great. Great what you're doing. Marcia, tell us a little bit about who you are and tell us what life was like for you prior to March 30th, 2014.
So it's funny because when you asked, tell me who you are, I was someone different before the stroke that I am today. It completely changed me. So before the stroke, I was a business owner and I had my own business and thought it was doing really well. And I have a husband. I guess I had just a normal life, you
Right,
know?
right.
After the stroke, I now have my own business, but it took a long time to get there. And my business now is to help brain injury survivors get better.
And I might
So,
mention I'm one of those brain injury survivors. I don't know if you knew that or not,
yeah.
but I did have a bad fall and I had to have emergency surgery where I had a subdural hematoma and
Oh,
they had to drain the blood out of that area. So
yeah.
I'm well aware of all that and
Yeah.
appreciate you coming on to talk about it. Let me ask you a question. When you awoke on Sunday morning, March 30th, 2014 at age 53, uh, you said you felt off. Tell us about that morning. Please tell us about that morning.
So when I woke up, I felt weird or off, as you say.
Yeah,
And I knew I had to call or text my friend because I didn't feel like going to breakfast. And so I tried texting her and I realized I couldn't read the text. And knowing now what I do, that was aphasia. And aphasia is the inability to comprehend, read, write, or speak language. And so I was looking at my text and I'm going, huh, I must be tired. And I put it down. When I rolled over, I had the worst headache imaginable. And despite that, I fell asleep. The next time I woke up, I was paralyzed on the right hand side. And I don't know how anyone else feels,
yeah,
but I felt if I didn't get up and find help, I'd be done. That would be it for me.
yeah.
So I crawled down the hallway and I lost any sense of mobility about halfway down the hallway. But my husband was home.
Thank God, right?
Exactly. If it had been a weekday, I probably would have not survived.
Yeah. I know it was a Sunday, so that was a good thing.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And you couldn't talk either, right?
I couldn't talk, which is again aphasia.
Yeah.
Um, but I didn't even think about talking until he came up and asked me how I was, and then I opened my mouth and nothing came out. So I didn't understand that it was a stroke until the paramedics came and told us.
Yeah.
Like, and it's
They knew right away, I assume.
they did know right away.
Yeah. What did you think was going on when that all that was going on?
I didn't even know. I didn't even think about it. The only thing I was thinking is I have to find help.
Yeah.
If I don't find help, then I think I'm done.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. I know when I had my fall, uh, it was so traumatic, and so I felt it like somebody just punched me in the head, and
Hmm.
I was bleeding, and
Hmm.
just like you, I fell asleep, and then I woke up a little bit
Oh,
later. Yeah, it's crazy, and
yeah,
blood all over the place. When you hit your face, or
yeah.
it's just that area
It,
bleeds a lot.
it sounds horrible, actually.
Yeah. Can you tell our audience the difference between a stroke and an aneurysm and some of the symptoms of having a stroke?
Okay, so an aneurysm is a place of weakness in the blood vessels. And when it bursts, you have um, a stroke, but it's a one that bleeds rather than for me, I had an ischemic stroke, and that's where you have a blood clot that goes into your brain. And about 20% of people have a stroke that bleeds.
Okay.
I can't even tell you. There's so many different things that happen when you get a stroke. So I had um, weakness on my right side. I had aphasia. I had loss of memory. I had tinnitus in my left ear.
Which is like
I had,
a ringing in your ear, right?
right,
Yeah.
which still rings. Lucky me.
Ah,
Um, I had the thing that I think is probably most interesting at that time is I was extremely vulnerable. So I was like a child, a baby that had nothing around me except the people who loved me. And I didn't, I had nothing that I wanted to say things, I wanted to do things, and I couldn't do any of them, you know?
yeah, you felt
Not
helpless.
exactly. I felt helpless.
Yeah.
And I'm not used to feeling vulnerable.
No, I mean, who is really? Yeah.
Right.
Now, you had a spontaneous, what they call a spontaneous stroke, meaning there was no precursor to it because you were in a very fit uh, physical condition, from what I understand.
Yeah.
How common is that? And is there an average age of someone having a stroke?
So there's no average age. They have them from prenatal to up to 90. So they can happen at any time. Um, Most people have strokes at 65 or older,
Hmm.
and that would be about 75% of them.
Okay.
But I will say that the age for stroke is going down over the last few years, and some of it I think has got to do with COVID. Um, what was that other thing that you asked?
It was
Oh,
how common is
oh,
that?
yeah. So I had an ischemic stroke in my right carotid artery, and they said that 1 to 2% of people have that. So it's very, very
It's rare.
rare.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow. Now, how important is it to have a healthcare advocate? What's it like to have someone there acting on your behalf?
It's you have to. It's imperative because if you don't,
Brian Haidt is a modern day Renaissance man, seamlessly integrating Eastern and Western philosophies to empower individuals to overcome mental barriers and achieve peak performance. He has diverse expertise as a Hollywood stuntman featured in television shows and films such as Superman, Haunted Mansion, The Iron Claw, Stranger Things, and The Cleaning Lady, to name just a few. And he is also a performance psychologist, author, and certified mental performance consultant, making him a sought after authority in unlocking human potential. Brian's book, Begin Again, utilized the wisdom of Eastern and Western ideologies to achieve your full potential, is a collection of 183 short essays on topics gleaned from a range of sources spanning both miles and millennia. Each essay highlights a familiar challenge such as failure or stress. Reading the book, you will discover the importance of the present moment, the ways in which our thoughts affect our emotions and behaviors, ways to develop and maintain confidence and motivation, strategies for maximizing overall well-being, simple techniques that make a dramatic impact on the quality of our personal, professional, social, and family lives. The book will guide you how to free yourself from the counterproductive thought patterns that have unconsciously been impacting your quality of life and why you think what you think, do what you do, and teach you how to leverage that knowledge for the benefit of yourself and those around you. The daily challenges we face in today's modern culture seem unique to our current place in history, but they are not. This book explores that idea while guiding you in overcoming those challenges daily. To quote Brian, every day we begin again. Every day is an opportunity for growth, development, change, and improvement. Every moment is a chance to assess our current circumstances and steer our thoughts and actions in more helpful, productive directions. Buy the book, unlock your full potential, and find the wisdom inside of you. The book is available from Amazon in hardcover, paperback, and Kindle format. Information about the book will be listed in the podcast notes.
Don't have someone who can talk for you, then they don't know what to do with you, right?
Right.
So you're in the hospital, and if nobody knows what to do with you, they can do anything they want. Who
Yeah.
wants that,
Yeah.
right?
Right. Right.
Right. And so my husband was my advocate at the time, and he communicated, I would say, 95% of what I wanted him to communicate, which is awesome. Since then, I took the time to write up what I want to do if I'm in the spot of having a stroke or something else. So, you know, you never know.
Yeah, I mean, I feel bad for people that live alone, that are elderly.
Yeah.
I mean, what do they, I mean, if anybody out there is listening to this and living alone and you're on the, elderly side, I would say what, get something set up where you can push a button or whatever. And,
Yep.
what do you recommend for that?
I think you're right. They can get the, what is it, life alert?
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, I
I
think
think
that's the
that's
way to go.
probably the thing. Yep.
I know a lot
That's
of
what,
older men probably don't want to do that. Don't want to wear something or whatever, but hey, you got to do what you have to do to, to stay healthy.
yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
Now tell us about you talked a little bit about aphasia and there's something called apraxia of
Yep.
speech, which can come along with one suffering a stroke or brain injury,
Yep.
which you suffered. Can you tell us a little bit about those two?
So, first of all, 40% of stroke survivors have aphasia.
Okay.
And aphasia is the inability to communicate. So, it can be language comprehension, reading, writing, or speaking. And if you're not, and I'm going to say cured with quotes, if you're not cured within 3 months, you have it for life, they say. So I had this apraxia, so I knew exactly what I wanted to say, but I couldn't say it. So it was like there were two people in my head, right?
Right.
And I will tell you, it is the most frustrating thing I experienced because
Imagine.
if you cannot communicate, then you sound or you feel like someone who gets smaller and smaller and smaller, right?
Right.
Um, so that's aphasia. Apraxia is the inability to move your muscles to sound the words out.
Okay.
Yeah.
How long did it take you uh to get over all this?
Well, the apraxia went away in less than 3 months. The
Okay.
aphasia, um, I lasted for 3.5 years. And at that time, I was treating with someone who is a doctor. And I went in for a treatment, and he said, "Hey, Marcia, I think I've got something." And he gave me the website, and it is microcurrentneurofeedback.com. He said, "You should go look." So I went and looked at this website, and it said all sorts of things that it treated. And I'm going, right, uh-huh. But they also had a small study on there for TBI patients. And I read the study, and 85% of those TBI patients, that's traumatic brain injuries,
Right.
got better. And there's nothing about this device that will make you worse. I'm going, hey, brain injury, I got to give it a try because if 85% get better, I'm probably likely to.
Yeah, what do you have to lose?
Exactly. So I called the doctor up and said, "Hey, I'm in."
Yeah.
And we did a test before I started it, and I had PTSD, which is, I'm like, duh, of course I have PTSD. I had a stroke, right?
Yeah, you had trauma, of course. Yeah.
Right, exactly. And he put the leads on my head and started it up. And I could see it moving across the computer monitor. So it shows your brain waves and all that. And I'm going, but I can't feel anything. Is he kidding me? I went home that night and realized that I was speaking a little bit better. And after 16 sessions, I speak like I do now.
Wow. That's
Yeah,
something. That's
yeah,
something.
that's
Uh,
amazing.
that is. Now, I have a figure here. Nearly 30 people per hour get some kind of speech impediment caused by a stroke in the United States.
Yep,
Does that sound about right? That's a lot.
yep,
30 people an
yep,
hour. Wow.
yep,
I mean, where there's so many strokes, yeah.
yep.
Can you talk to us about getting a second opinion and questioning the therapy? And how much did you do of that? In other words, being your own advocate and not taking one answer as the final answer.
So I went to the doctor and did the therapies that they told me to do.
Right.
And they all said that I was getting to be as better as I'll get. And I'm going, yeah, but I still not walk well. Still can't talk. Um, I don't believe that this is all there is for me. So I went out and I looked at holistic doctors. And the first one I found was 2 years after the stroke. And he had it was an zirconia laser. And he said that it might not be able to help me, but it might. And the only way he would know is if I would try it. And it would take 4 or 5 sessions. And if I was better, that would be great. And if I wasn't better, that's one thing I could cross off my list.
Right.
So I tried it and it made me speak better. So the Erconia laser made my conversational level go up. So, hi, how are you? The weather's fine. But it didn't allow me to dig deeper. So if I talked to someone about my job, I couldn't talk to them. Right.
Oh.
So that's why the IASIS microcurrent neurofeedback machine is important to me because that took me all the way. And I found that at 3.5 years after my stroke.
So the bottom line is for people out there, you have to do your own research.
Yep.
And when they tell you something like, oh, they'll tell a cancer patient, for example, well, you got 6 months to live. Well, that's not always true. You can't
Yep.
just take some doctor's word for it. You have to do your own research. and go into other options, right?
Yep.
You have to try other things, and you have to find doctors that are open to doing other forms of therapy rather than just the conventional forms.
And I have found another therapy called Cereset, which if I hadn't been
I would like to encourage you to embark on a transformative journey through the #1 Amazon bestseller our podcast guest and supporter, Gina Economopoulos, has authored titled Shake the Dust Off Your Feet and Walk, which is a stirring memoir tracing Gina's path from despair to redemption. From Gina's humble beginning as a bartender to the sacred halls of the convent, and through the trials of tumultuous relationships and alcoholism, Gina grapples with loss of faith, grief, and the pursuit of self-discovery. With honesty and authenticity, the readers witness her quest to reclaim her life amidst chaos. You will be drawn into the landscape of her struggles, from the agonizing decision to leave the convent after 12 years of service to the numbing embrace of alcoholism. Every step of her journey is fraught with uncertainty and pain. Through resilience and determination that she acquires, Gina begins the process of healing, letting go of the past, and making new connections in the present. The book is more than just a memoir, it is a testament to the power of the human spirit to find healing in faith, time, and self discovery. Her story serves as a reminder that however challenging the road ahead may seem, there is always hope waiting to be discovered in the most unlikely of places. Buy the book and let Gina's words inspire you to confront your own struggles with grace and resilience and emerge stronger on the other side. This is a book so powerful, a movie could be made about it. You will not be disappointed buying this book. The book is available from Amazon in paperback and Kindle format. Details will be listed in the podcast notes.
better by using IASIS, I would have moved to Cereset, because you never know what part works and what part doesn't work.
Right.
So, and I know that there are probably other things out there that also work. You just have to find them.
Can I assume that a lot of these holistic treatments are not covered by insurance?
You can assume that.
Okay. So not everybody's going to have the means to do, what you did.
Right. So
But
I will
that's,
tell you, yeah. So
no,
I
go
will tell
ahead.
you, I spent about $2,000 on IASIS at the time.
Uh-huh.
And if you think about what you get from IASIS, that's pretty small.
Oh, yeah.
If you look at, I've heard about treatment centers where you go and live there for a month, and it's like $20,000 a month. I'm
Yeah.
going, there's no way I could
Yeah.
try anything like that.
Right. Yeah, the average
Right,
person wouldn't have that.
right. But for $2,000 or $3,000, I think it
That,
would be worth it.
yeah, that's a no-brainer. Yeah.
Yeah.
What did the stroke teach you about pretenses in your life?
You know, I am totally honest. No, there's no need to put on airs. And you know what? That makes me free.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You just live in your own life, right?
Yep.
And
And and if somebody comes along and they don't get along with me, then I avoid them and go to people that I do like.
yeah,
Because there's no need to be around people that you don't like either.
I'm a two-time cancer survivor, and I feel the same way you do. You
Yep.
you find out real quick what's important in your life. And
Yep.
I can tell people out there materialistic things really don't mean a whole lot. If you don't have your health, forget it.
It's funny how materialistic things are so unimportant.
Yeah, it really is.
Yeah.
What are your thoughts on choosing the right healthcare provider for this, such as for people out there who've had strokes, are listening to this, going through it? I know you saw a neurologist, you saw a massage therapist, uh, and what do you do if you don't, if you don't agree with them? Is there a special doctor for this? You know, I know when I had my TBI, I pretty much saw a neurologist,
Mhm.
and I didn't know the first thing about who to see. They just said, "Hey, you have to go to neurology, and you have to have a neurosurgeon, perform
Mhm.
what they did." So
Yeah.
what can you tell people out there about that?
So I had a neurologist after my stroke,
Yeah.
and I didn't see eye to eye with him. So I fired him.
Okay. Which is
And
perfectly fine at your right.
it's my right. And I asked my friends on Facebook, what do I do now? Do you know of anyone?
Yeah.
And they offered up someone who was really special. I really like him.
Did you go to a Facebook group for that?
No, just the friends and a few friends. I
Okay.
didn't put it out to the world. I decided to, I think it was probably 10 people.
Okay.
And I said, what do you know?
Yeah.
Who can you recommend? And I think that's the place where I think people can really benefit is asking your friends. So the person who recommended the doctor who gave me the neurofeedback was also a friend.
Okay.
So start with your friends, and if that doesn't work, then open it up to um, acquaintances.
Especially doctors, maybe, huh?
Yeah,
Physicians. Yeah.
yeah.
Now, you also received treatment, like we talked about, from a holistic doctor that incorporated acupuncture, nutrition, and PEMF, and that's what you were talking about, right?
Right.
PEMF, which is pulsed electromagnetic field therapy.
Hmm.
So, what are your overall thoughts about using holistic therapy?
So before my stroke, I would have said, that's a bunch of hooey.
Okay, yeah,
You know,
yeah,
after my stroke, I'm going to say, I think it's important to look at medicine and the holistic medicine and decide where they merge for you and go see the holistic when you think it's appropriate.
okay. And the holistic basically is trying to get to the root causes, correct?
Exactly.
Right. So they're not going down a algorithm like conventional physicians do. I mean,
Right.
they're pretty much basically going off algorithms like, well, you have this, so we're going to try this. If that doesn't work, we're going to try this. And
Right.
I know we've had some functional medicine doctors on here, and
Hmm.
they really spend a lot of time with the patients, and they really ask deep questions.
They do.
It's not a 15-minute interview at
No,
all.
it's not. And I appreciate that because they get to know you as a person.
Yeah, exactly. Now, you also were treated by three chiropractic doctors. Tell us about that, and most importantly, uh, tell us about the neural feedback in detail using what they call the microcurrent neurofeedback therapy and how it affected your aphasia and your gait.
Okay. So the guy who gave me laser treatment, the zirconia laser, was a chiropractor.
Okay.
I see a chiropractor in DC, and he doesn't crack your back, but he does little, I'm going to say pulses on your pain points and makes the pain go away. And I don't know how he does it, but it's great.
Okay. Is that something
And
you have
then,
to continually go back to treatments for?
yeah, so I had See, I'd actually seen a chiropractor for the last 25 years.
Okay.
So this is nothing new. And I see him now because he's got me on a plan so that I stay in alignment rather
Yeah.
than, yeah. Um, so I see him 6 weeks, every 6 weeks. And the third was the guy who gave me IASIS microcurrent neurofeedback. And it's a small machine. It's about this big
Okay.
by this high.
So for people that are not watching this on YouTube, not very big.
It's not very big.
Okay.
Exactly. And he treated me with paste to exfoliate my skin. And I say it feels like cat spit. It's wet, it's sticky, and it's gritty. And after the cat spit, then he puts white paste on, and then he uses these electrodes and they go, there's a five electrodes there. And then he zapped me. Now, here's the interesting thing. The microcurrent neurofeedback machine uses AAA or AA batteries, and the pulse of one of the that comes out of it is 1/100th of a AA battery. So that's why I didn't feel it.
So it's pretty painless,
Yeah.
completely painless.
Yep. And it lasts about I would say about 2 minutes.
Okay.
Less in the beginning, but in all about 2 minutes, and then you're done.
That's excellent. Yeah, and you got fantastic results out of it.
Hmm.
And your gait improved too?
Oh yeah. Now here's the interesting thing. After the first session, my husband came in and told Dr. Fuller to continue doing it because I'd smiled for the first time since
Uh-huh.
my stroke.
Sure.
Yeah.
Wow. Doctor must have been happy to hear that.
Yeah.
Now, you wrote this fantastic book, Stroke Forward. What prompted you to write the book and become vulnerable, so to speak? And I like the way, when I read the book, how you have other people's perspectives intertwined in the book. So it's not just you, but you have other people, family members and other people who were on your journey, uh, chiming in. So that was really neat. What prompted you to write the book?
So I couldn't speak.
Right.
And I figured that people needed to understand what it's like to have a stroke. And I guess it's as easy as that. Now, writing was also very hard. So I could write an entire day and I would get 3 paragraphs out
Wow.
because I didn't understand how to spell words, right, in the beginning.
Okay.
So I had to
The
go to
memory loss and all that.
so I had to go to thesaurus.com and poke around until I found the word. And then I would type it, and the right side was off, so it wouldn't type on the keys well. So I had to type, delete, type, delete until I got it right. And I couldn't use speech because I couldn't speak, right?
Right. Yeah.
So
It
it,
must have
it,
been difficult.
it was.
Yeah, very difficult. I can imagine.
So I started on the first anniversary of my stroke, and it took me 4.5 years to write it,
Wow.
edit it, edit it, write it, edited it, and write it a third time. So the first time I wrote it, it was a boring book because
Yeah,
there was
I would tell people listening to this, it is not a boring book. for sure.
No, the first time I wrote it, it was a completely boring book because I had no emotion in it.
Mm.
None. And so it's like, okay, I have to open up.
Did the editors tell you the same thing?
No, it was when I took it to the editor, um, there wasn't all that much editing.
Okay.
There was uh, a lot of editing in the first two chapters, some of it which I didn't agree with, and so I took it out. But well, I've been in marketing, so I could write okay.
Yeah, for sure. That's what you used to
Um,
do, right? You wrote business plans.
right.
Yeah.
Um, so the second draft, I would say, is pretty good, except there was no emotion when it came to talking about my family. Okay. Okay. So I have to be totally vulnerable.
Yeah.
And there's a chance that people won't like it and say they don't like it. And I don't have to care.
Exactly.
So I rewrote it and I don't know. I was so scared when I published it because I didn't know.
Well, it's an authentic book for
Yeah.
sure. And
Yeah.
you're telling your story, and I know you've gotten good reviews, so
Yeah.
that's the good thing. What do you hope the reader takes away from reading the book? What would you like the reader to take away?
A feeling of hope.
Okay.
So it doesn't matter if it's a caregiver or a stroke survivor.
Hmm.
I want them to have a feeling of hope. And if they're not getting the care they want, they should look for the care they need in a different place. And believe it or not, it's out there somewhere. You just have to find it.
There's
And
res
sometimes,
there's
go ahead.
resources out there.
There it is. There's resources out there. I hope that the people who buy the book decide to join a stroke group because they get together at least once a month and talk about things that only stroke survivors or caregivers have been through.
Exactly. You want to use their knowledge and their experiences to better your position.
You do, but
So
also it's it's nice to be around people who know what you've been through because it's I'm sorry, it's a warm and fuzzy place.
exactly, and I can relate to it. Having had the male breast cancer twice, we're only 1% of breast cancers are people who get breast cancer. I actually run a support group. We meet once a month,
Mhm.
and it's great because there's a lot of men out there who have nobody to talk to about it that know what
Yep.
they're going through because
Yep.
there's not that many of us out there. And even though
Yep.
2,500 men get it a year, uh, that's 25 in the US, that's 2,500 men scattered all over the country,
Yep.
so it's great that they have a focal point to go to.
Yep.
Tell us about your journey to get back to a better place, having the stroke, such as, again, joining groups and volunteering and renewing your passions for the things you love to do.
So the first thing I'm going to say is it's important to have the right caretakers around you.
Okay.
Because if I had somebody who was disinterested or said, it's been a year, this is as good as you're going to get, and kind of poo-pooed on me, I would be in a different place than I am now. Right.
Right.
So I think first and foremost, the most important people in your life are your caregivers. And when I started speaking up for myself and tried to take some of the caregiving away,
Yeah.
sometimes it's not so easy. The caregiver wants to keep taking care of you, and that's not okay, right? They
Well,
have to,
you don't want them building walls, and enclosing you in like a cell. That's for sure. You want to get
right,
out there and do it if you can do it.
right. And sometimes you can't do it, or you can't do it very well. And you
Right.
know what? That's okay.
Right. You got to keep trying.
So I will tell people that sometimes I fell down, and that's okay because you get up and you just keep walking, right?
Yeah, I always say you can have your little pity party for a couple minutes, but then
Yep,
you can't go down that rabbit hole forever or you're going to be
yep,
lost. So you got to
right.
lick your wounds and get back up and keep going. And I wanted to close out with one last question. You kind of answered, but maybe you can answer this on a mental level. For those out there, be it patients of a stroke or caretakers or family members or friends of stroke patients struggling for whatever reason, uh, what advice do you have for them?
Never give up.
Okay.
So it may seem daunting, but you can do it. I also think that caregivers need to take some time for themselves. So if they have an hour a day, actually, they should make an hour a day just for themselves. They should have massages if they want them to just let the stroke patient let them out of your mind because as a caretaker, you need to take care of them longer than we think. So if you took everything you have and you put it in, you're going to wear out and become angry. And that's not okay.
Right. So I guess in a nutshell, you're saying self-care. You have to have some
Yeah.
self-care.
Yeah.
Good advice. Marcia, if people want to contact you, how can they go about that? Do you have a website or
I have a website. It's strokeforward.com. That's strokeforward.com.
okay?
And they can email me at Marcia@strokeforward.com. And that's Marcia.
All right, we're going to put that in the podcast notes.
Yep.
So for people out there to be in the podcast notes. Marcia, I want to thank you so much for being on the podcast and educating our audience on this subject. I know I speak for the audience when I say we admire your courage to make yourself vulnerable to help others. And
Yep.
it's just been a pleasure talking to you. And all the information you're giving out here is great. uh, Especially for, like I say, people who are going through this or don't even know anything about strokes. At least they have now they have some knowledge. Comments and suggestions for the podcast, you can email me at it's a wrap with rap at gmail.com. Our Facebook group is It's a Wrap with Rap. It's a private group. If you want, you can email me or go on Facebook and we'll let you in. And we're on Instagram. It's a Rap with Rap podcast. We're on X at Rapper, WRAPPER 130. Our YouTube channel is It's a Rap with Rap, the podcast uncut. I want to thank everyone for listening. Please stay safe. And for now, it's a wrap.